Welcome back to Three Generations Podcast. We've got Marie, a wise boomer. I'm Julia, your Gen X realist. And Jess, our millennial with fresh takes. 3 generations, 3 perspectives, and 3 times the fun. Because sometimes the only thing that we can agree on is that we're different. Welcome back.
Welcome. Thank you to our subscribers. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. I'm pretty sure I can speak for all 3 of us when we say we love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for continuing to subscribe, to share, and to like our content. We really appreciate the support that you guys give us, because it's what's helping us move along. So thank you so much for what you guys do. We totally appreciate it. So, Jules, what is on today's agenda?
We're going to talk about workplace evolution and just workplace perspectives in general and how we've looked at that. And speaking of that, this is all fun for us, as this is not work for us. But
that's true. So it's so true. We that's why we started this. So I can be pretty savvy on this, but sorry, Jules, I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So first, let me just kick it off by this is obviously, guys, general. Just a general view I'm going to talk about how the 3 generations represented here have looked at workplace and what's been typically the experience, and then we're going to talk about our experience. So with boomers, they've been typically loyal to one employer, valuing stability and a clear career ladder. Gen X has been navigating the work-life balance, adapting to workplace challenges, and being skeptical of corporate promises. And millennials have an emphasis on purpose-driven work, flexible schedules, and embracing the gig economy. So with that, Jess, what do you think?
So my name's Jess, and I'm a former workaholic.
Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess.
Welcome to the 3 Generations AA meeting. No, I'm just kidding. This is really interesting to me, because it's so funny that today they call it, what is it called? Like quit culture or something like that. I don't want to say cancel culture, but with the millennials going from job to job to job right now. And I guess that really kicked off during COVID, right? I'm actually I've had a few jobs, right? But everybody's had a few jobs when they're young, like side gigs or whatever. But this is my 3rd time starting over. I just got a new job, but my first 2 jobs that I had, I was a total workaholic. I was a workaholic. I was just so addicted and driven to my job. And it's insane to me. But every single job I thought that I was at, I thought I was going to retire at. I thought that I was going to be there for forever, and I thought I was going to retire. And then Jesus was like, "That's cute, Jess. I think that's adorable." But every single job that I went to, I thought I was going to retire at. And I ended up having to go to a new job for whatever reason, right? So I just started my new job, and I've been there for a couple weeks, but my mom actually helped me get hired there. My mom works at the same office. It's a medical office. My mom's a nurse. And I was looking for something, because basically since I was 17, I've had 2-3 jobs. I've worked 6-7 days a week. I worked 60-70 hour work weeks. I flip-flop from days to nights. I did what I had to do to get by. But this new job, it was hysterical, because she had to give my resume to the manager and be like, "Hey, this is my daughter. I just wanted to recommend her for hire. She's looking for a job." And my mom read my resume before she gave it to her. And one of the things that I would get hit by with my family all the time was they would be mad at me because I would miss every birthday party. I would miss every family gathering. I would miss everything. And they thought that I was blowing them off. But I was so addicted to the vision of my career. I basically defined myself by who I was professionally. In every single promotion, I was like, yes, I got it. Yes. You know what I mean? I'd always have a new goal. I'd always have a carrot dangling in front of me. And I can't even begin to tell you how many things I missed. So my mom's reading my resume, and she was like, "Jess, I gave that resume, and I could not believe the amount of things that you have done at your other I said, "Did you think I was missing those parties because I was at home eating Wheaties? You know what I mean? What do you think I was doing?" But I'm just curious, for you guys, did you guys have things like that? Because I know in my generation, it's crazy. People will jump from job to job to job to job, like you said, because they're looking for that work-life balance. They're looking for, I want to feel purposeful in this. And I don't feel that way. I haven't felt that way. Every job that I've, the three major jobs that I've had, it's like, yo, I need some money in the bank. And this is who responded. So that it wasn't it's my lifelong dream to be an electrician and, do this. No, it was like, that's going to put money in the bank and that's why I'm going to do it. But what was it for you guys when you guys were searching for your careers? Was it like that where you guys had to jump from job to job, or was it like, I was at this place for 15 years and then I was at this place for 15 years, or no, I was only at one job? What's it like from your guys' perspective?
Oh, okay. I'll speak to that. Of course, my generation is, like Jules says, they were pretty much loyal. Like, I will go with my grandparents. My grandmother didn't work. My grandfather did. Worked the same place his whole life after he got out of the service. He retired, yada, yada, yada. The norm for that age. Me, I'm kind of an oddity in my generation. I move around a lot. I love to move. And so every time I moved, I looked for a different job. I didn't want to do the same thing I had done before. So I've done multiple jobs. But I think what it was is because when I came up in school and high school, we as women were only allowed to do certain professions. So, of course, I graduated with a business diploma, which meant I was a secretary. I could do shorthand, I could type, or a bookkeeper. That was pretty much it. So, and I did those jobs when I first got out of school. But as I evolved, I was like, nope, I'm going to look for something that I've never done before. And it really wasn't for the love of the job. It was just like, I've never done that. Let's give that one a shot. But I will say, which I don't see today, okay, I will say I gave it 110%. If I was doing a job, I was going to give it I was going to do a good job. I wasn't there just to skate. I wanted to learn. I wanted to do the job well. And I have no regrets. Jack of all trade, master of none. But it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. So I just one of those people. There's a job. I don't care who you are. Okay, there's always a job. It's just a matter of, are you willing to do it?
Yeah.
I'm so not listening to somebody says, oh, I can't find work. There's no work out there. Yes, there is.
It's just not what they want to do.
Yeah, it's not what you want. It doesn't pay what you want.
Right.
It doesn't give you what you want. There's work for everybody. There's all kinds of work. I've scrubbed toilets and I've been an executive, but I had fun along the way.
But do you think people have that perspective of, I'm going to do what I got to do and I'm going to have fun along the way?
No. People are driven by money and success, and that's what's important. And I think that they don't necessarily go together.
That's right.
But I think this younger generation, the youngest at this point, I think they're coming to terms with that. I'm going to do something that I love. It doesn't matter how much I make or I don't make or success. I'm going to do something I love. And I don't know if that's because of all the media and the technology and that type of stuff, where they can go on, and whether it's TikTok, YouTube, or one of them, and but again, we spoke about that before. Is it really who they are? Is that part just for the fame? But I believe that this younger generation cares more about what they care about than making money and being successful. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. My generation, women wanted to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And they took low-paying jobs and a lot of abuse.
Just to get out of the house?
Just to get out of the house. And be honest, that's when the divorce rate and things went up because women had reached their limit.
Right.
They had been abused and mistreated and had no options, even in families. So to get out there and do a job, it's like independence. It's like, I don't care if it's $1 or or $500. I got money in my pocket.
Right.
You know, I can do what I want to do when I want to do it. And so that's, you know, I think that's where my generation came from. They were willing to sit in the secretarial pool.
Yeah.
They were willing not to make much money. It got them out of the house. They got to feel like they were more than just a wife or a mother. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's wonderful too. But my generation wanted more. They wanted more.
They were ready for change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
I find that the that younger generation, and I'm thinking maybe some Gen Z and like some of the latter end of the millennials, sometimes just don't want to wait, or not willing to, like if a promotion or that advancement is not coming quick enough, then it's like you just quick to move on to something else. So there's not that loyalty, say, to the company anymore. And I kind of get that because I don't feel very loyal to corporations either. But I think I'm more willing to wait it out, to go through the steps, to give it a little bit more time, especially if it's paying the bills. I mean, money's important. But I think the other thing that's different about this time is that for everybody across the board, but I also think that the younger generation has a more of a handle on this, is the normalization of entrepreneurship, of just making that side hustle, whether that's something that, you know, it doesn't take much time to figure out. Like you have a full-time job, but you have the reality of your student loan bills or just where you want to be in life or the kind of lifestyle you want. So you're totally cool with, on your off time, spending some time being an Uber driver or delivering DoorDash, because that's like normal and there's no stigma to it. That's your side hustle. Or doing something that takes a little bit more effort, but it's also a side hustle of doing something on the internet, whether that's influencing or doing one-off jobs, doing some graphic design for someone and things like that to just make that extra money. Now, for me, my experience is I do relate to the generalization of Gen X about what's most important to me is work-life balance. Like, I'll get it done, just let me do it my way. I don't want to be doing it in a conventional way that things have to be done in the office between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, if that's not going to work for me, because my time in my life is more of a priority, or it's more important to me to live my life than my life as a worker bee. Now I've had this right now in an interesting season because I had some room of comparison. I'm doing the same kind of job where I'm supporting a high-level executive. But before that, I supported the high-level executive was a boomer, and now I'm doing the same thing for a millennial. And I'm finding that their weans of what was important to them and even how they rewarded me are vastly different because they're looking at it from their end. Like if I was in Julia's shoes, this is probably what I would appreciate. And it's completely different. And both of them, honestly, sometimes don't really
get it.
Yeah, like I see where they think that this is like a big, like for example, my former boomer boss would think that I would try to show appreciation by accolades or giving me some kind of corporate, level like perk, or like, oh, you have an office now, blah, blah, blah. And then that was just me. And that really didn't do anything for me. And then my millennial boss kind of tries to give me that perk by saying, look, what you're doing is like really important. And it is, I'm not saying that none of those things that I've just listed are invaluable. It's just it's not the highest value for me. Mine is, I trust you to get your work done. And hey, you want to take an off day here, or you want to do this part from home, I'll do it for you. Like for me, I'm like, that's great. That speaks to me. That's a value for me.
I would love that. That would be an awesome benefit. It's funny because it's funny that you say you feel like people are more willing to jump to something else for a quality of life situation. And you were saying earlier with,
No,
with
jump if
capitalism.
they don't see that they're getting that promotion and they're not getting that raise within, like, say I've been with the company for a year. Why am I not promoted? Why am I not making more money? That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like jumping off for that. Like I gave it a year. I don't see that
Yeah.
it hasn't happened. I don't see it
Yeah.
happening. So I'm just going to go to jump into
I
another
have
company.
seen that. I have seen that in both of the major corporations that I worked for. I worked for two major corporations, and there was a lot of people that had a lot of talent. They were high performers, and it's like you said, they didn't get the promotion. And here's the problem though with when they don't get the promotion. In every instance that I saw, there was people above them saying, "You're the guy. You're the next guy. It's going to be you." And this is my personal experience. They would promise them things that they weren't going to give to them. And in big corporations, it's tough because I feel like there's this trickle down with big corporations now. And I feel like we're evolving more and more into greed. And this is just my take on it, right? We're evolving more and more into greed. And the things that I've seen is as long as the money is coming in the door, I'm going to hold the rug, you push the broom, is what I've seen. And there's a lot of people that have talent and know their worth nowadays, especially when it comes to big corporations. They know what they're capable of. And part of that reason from the things I've seen where they're like, dude, if you're not going to give me this, I'm going to move on, because it's like Marie said earlier, there's jobs out there.
It's all kinds.
Everybody is trying to hire somebody, and there's always something out there that somebody can go to. And there's always somebody else that's going to value and see the gold in somebody that people above them can't see where they are. I mean, when I worked for a quick lube company, there was somebody that was an amazing manager. He was so good at his job. And he got promised, like, you're going to be the next district manager. It's you. You're the guy. You know what I mean? And then they gave it to somebody else. So in that situation, he was like, yeah, I'm out. And he got another job. And he was like, that was the best decision I ever made. I'm so happy. And, cut to probably more than 8 years later now, I think he's still there and he loves it. He's happy with what he does. And then the last corporation that I worked for, it was kind of the same situation where it was just like, wasn't being valued, was putting in a ton of hours, didn't have good work-life balance, but was willing to do it because they were like, I'm going to get a promotion out of this. They were used and abused. And then they got, well, I'm going to give it to this guy instead. And they're like, well, I'm going to go work for this other major corporation. And then they, you talk to them later and they're like, that's the best decision I ever made. And I think that what we have now versus what there was before is there's so many options. There's so many businesses. There's so many corporations. There's so many job fields you can get into, and they will hire people that it's like, hey, you got a great foundation. Like, you don't have the exact skill set that I need for you to execute this job, but you have the foundation that I need that I can build off of, because that's also tough to find nowadays.
Well, I think that's true, but I think that's always been true, especially in corporate, not your small businesses so much or stuff like that, but in corporate life, I've done both. I've done, where the family owned, and I've done corporate, and corporate is dog eat dog.
It is.
Let's be honest. I was in corporate. I didn't think anything. I would have stepped on your head to get farther. I wouldn't even have thought twice about it. It's, it's where you're at that season. And if you're in any type of corporate, the stronger, the one who's the smartest, who's willing to execute what they want,
right,
no matter what it takes to get it. And I think you'll always find that in corporate. Not so much in your family-owned business. Give a prime example. When I moved to Florida, I went for a job interview at a drugstore for pharmacy tech, which I'd never done before. And the young man who was introducing me, it's so funny because when you've done that type of work and then someone does it with you, your brain kicks in, and he says to me, so where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And I'm thinking to myself, that's such a dumb question, but yeah, okay. I said, I see me. I said, I see me as manager of this store. And he goes, well, that's my job. I said, well, then you better do better.
Oh my God.
Did you get hired?
So I left and I said to my husband, what we married then? I don't think we were married then. But anyway, I said to Skip, I was like, yeah, not getting that one, Next day, they called me, hired me. I worked for them for 8 years.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you become manager?
I ran that department pretty much.
Of course you did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the pharmacy part, and his son did the floor. I helped him a little bit, but yeah. But even so, family business, like the girl, they would hire a girl on the counter up front, and you would get a prescription. There's certain things you needed to know: the person's name, their address, their phone number, the doctor. Okay, the rest comes back to me. And I continually said to this girl, she wouldn't get any of the information. And I pulled her aside one day. She wasn't there that long. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care what you do out front, could care less. But when you affect my part of the job, you and me, we got a problem. We got a problem.
Just picture it.
Yeah. And I said, that ain't going to happen. From now on, you get this information, because if you don't get this information, you won't be working here that long. Not that I had any power to fire or hire her, but.
You let her think that, though.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Fake
That's
it till you
good.
make it.
This is when I wish that we had video so that you could see the look on her face as she told it, because she means business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to execute in that way too, but it didn't. I was the bad cop for sure. And most of it was.
Yes, but the thing of it is, Jess, is you can do your work any way you want to, but when it affects my work, you and me, we got a problem. I don't care what you do. I'm going to do my job. But when you make my job harder, there's a problem. There's a problem. And I still feel that way today, even in serving in ministry. I still feel that way. I will do anything I can to help you, not back then, but now. But when you start affecting what I'm able to do, we got a problem. And I'm that person. I'm going to come see you. I'm going to see you first, and I think that's some of the problems of today. Most people don't like confrontations, and I get that. But you need to have a conversation with the person. Don't be so quick to go above them. Have the conversation with the person first. Let them know, listen, you can do something, but boy, if you think I'm going to let this go, it ain't happening. It's just not happening. And I think we need, and again, not screaming at somebody, not being vindictive.
Just having an assertive conversation.
Have the conversation.
Yeah.
Tell them how you feel. This is how this affects me. And I'm not going to put up with it. So we got to compromise here, or I'm going to continue up the ladder. And I still do that. I don't have any problem with that. And I think we've lost that art.
I agree. And I think, I'm not even kidding, I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, because I feel like going back to having that art. So the first company that I did work for, when I tell you the amount of training that they put into their people, and it was before they went public. So let me put that out there first, because they were a company, but they weren't public yet. They would literally tell you people are the most important part of their company. People is why money is coming in the door. Our customers are people. People are everything. So they looked at you and they said, I will invest every penny I can into you and value you, because you are the one that runs my company. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm up here making decisions, but you're the boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. Cut to the second company that I worked for. It was, we've got money coming in the door. The outside of the cup is clean, and that's what I'm concerned about. As soon as that the little bit of dirt gets on the outside of the cup, there's a problem. But I'll tell you what, the inside of that cup was filthy. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And training was what it came down to, because when I tell you the first company I worked for, they saw the importance of good leadership and how important it is to develop good leaders, because good leaders also develop other good leaders.
Right. But there's still the old saying, okay? There's no team without a leader, okay? But there's no leader without a team.
Right. But if you have people that you're putting in the leadership roles that have zero knowledge and have no tools, and you have somebody above you saying, go and get that done. They're like, how do I get it done? They're like, just figure it out, sink or swim. That, to me, you're sabotaging yourself as a leader.
Well, You are and you aren't. It depends on what field it's in and what it consists of. Sometimes to train somebody, depending on what it is, you can throw them to the wolves. Let's see how they do. And a lot of training goes in that direction. Let's just, well, they think that they can do this. I've had a conversation with them, so let's just throw them out there. Let's see what happens.
But you had a conversation with them, and you told them what the expectations were.
Yes, always the expectations.
Exactly.
Always.
So versus this is what I want. This is the expectation that I want this job done. Okay, so what's the expectation of how I get this or figure it out. Like, especially when it comes to people. So if you have people under you that aren't sure, because a leader is supposed to be a roadmap. In my eyes, the leader is supposed to be a map. I don't look at leaders like a pyramid scheme. Like a lot of people, when you look at them, you say, build your scheme for me. They build it as a pyramid. I look at it as flat and everybody's on the same exact level. We all just have different roles that we have to execute, and we all have different things that we have to do to help each other. Nobody's above anybody. But when you have this, well, I'm above you, I'm telling you to go do this, and you don't give somebody specific training, because everybody's different. And it's like you said, there were situations where I had people under me where I said, this kid's got it. I am going to throw him to the wolves because that's how he's going to learn. But I had this other kid over here that I had to show how to turn the computer on. And once I showed him how to turn the computer on and showed him how to format and this, and that, then he took off running. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's different. But when you don't train a leader how to be able to see people through those different lenses, because not everybody's the same. Everybody has a different facet of a point of view. And companies aren't teaching that anymore. The first company I worked for taught me that. They taught me that, and they put 2 weeks of training into teaching me that. Versus this new company that I did work for a few years, they were like, yeah, here's a procedure, bye. And just like threw it on your lap. I want this done by the end of the day. And they just walked away. And that's fine. If you have somebody, for example, Marie, of your skill set, you could go in any situation. You could say, I'm going to figure it out. But nowadays, you don't have that anymore. So you have to be able to look at somebody and say, they're going to figure it out, or this person's not going to figure it out. I'm going to have to walk with them for a bit.
I think that I'm just waiting for like the workplace generally to swing back more towards the middle. I feel like we've been through a season with corporate where there was uneven gap in payment between salary between men and women.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I'm of the opinion that now it's more normalized, because I think there are some people that I don't buy it anymore that women are not paid less than men. I think if a woman goes and when they take a 15-year break to raise their children, which is their right, it's different than someone that's got the same education, but a man that's been at it for 15 years. But I think generally speaking, women are, the pay gap is really either eliminated or very close. I don't think we had that, but I think we have had that where women were doing the work and not getting paid the same amount. I think we've had a lot of time with nepotism within corporate companies. And it's like, this is my buddy also from, the good old days in school. Yep. So he's getting the advantage. Totally get that. I think it's unfair. But then on the other end of it, which I think goes almost the other way, is when you have the bringing in like the DEI policies, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, when then you have to, for the sake to bring equality, you have to discriminate. And so you're not choosing the best candidate, you're choosing the candidate that fits this box and that box so that you can have diversity. I think that's wrong. I think that what I'd like to see the swing go more towards the middle is, okay, let's create opportunities and training so that people that have normally not been able to reach the ladder to come up. Yes. If you're seeing like, okay, in the inner city, which let's just face it, a lot of minorities, Blacks and Latino people are usually in those cities, and say they're not coming up, they're not reaching that level, create a program there that can give them the leg up, but then, which is vastly different from, oh, we have a DEI policy. We have this person that's trained all their life for this, but they're the wrong skin color. And we're going to give it to this person that's less capable,
Yeah.
but they have the right skin color. I don't think that that's fair.
So I've seen that used wrong. And when you use it correctly, it's an amazing tool for diversity and inclusion. But when you use it incorrectly, it's when it falls apart. And here's the thing. You have people that think at high levels and you have people that think at low levels. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just the way that it is. There's some people that have it and some people that don't. And the high level people are looking at this as, like, for example, like how we do this podcast. We all have different point of views. We all have different facets of how we see things. And we all have different ways that we would execute things. Well, me and Marie kind of execute similarly. But we just call it what it is. But so that's where they introduced it, right? Versus, and I'm just going to use blue collar for an example. So in your trades, most of them will be white men. Like, especially in upstate New York, most of them are white men in upstate New York, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm just going to use this as an example. So if you're a corporation where you have a group that's just predominantly like that because it's upstate New York, and it's just is what it is. If you're talking New York City and you're talking blue collar unions in New York City, you've got a mixture of everybody in there, but this is a different area, right? So they're basically just saying we would really like to hire these minorities because of the different facets of life that they have, because we have everybody from the same pool that's from the same town that went to the same high school that did this and did that. They all think the same. They all talk the same. They all execute the same. And there's this, well, this is the way we've always done it mentality. So that diversity and inclusion, the people that are creating it are trying to introduce these new thought processes, a fresh set of eyes. I've never thought of doing it that way before. But what's happening is it's trickling down to these lower level peoples that are getting hired like as HR generalists, and we're talking for $20, $25 an hour, so that's a few bucks over minimum wage in the state of New York. And they're looking at something, and it's like you said, Jules, the policy is getting abused at this point now, because I've seen it at the last company I worked for that they did do that, where they hired people that were let go quickly just because they couldn't execute the job.
Well, United is accepted that. So that's how they're going to choose their pilot. I have a hard time with that. What about the best pilot? Mm-hmm. Not the pilot that, he fits this box of sexual orientation, which is like, who cares? And race and all of that. I want the best pilot that's going to fly for me. So I think that this is like, we've come kind of like towards our first sort of like real, like, I just don't see it your way at all. Just like, I hear you, but I think that DEI is inherently, it's just discriminatory. And I would much rather see, United, they want to have more representation and culture and diversity. So they're going to set up a program in these areas where there's more diversity, and going, hey, we're going to offer a discounted or a free sort of training to give the skill set so that you can be the best, so that you can compete with people that are at their best. And so we can have an option to choose you from this pool if you would like. I just think it's inherently discriminatory to have DEI and to have values based on your sexual orientation, your race, and your background. That should be a factor at all in a company.
Because it's abuse at that point, because you're passing up the best. And here's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I want the best applicant for the job too. I'm going to interview all y'all, and I'm going to pick the best person for the job. But that I'm saying that's what this person up here is saying. And you got to remember too, these are from people that live in cities where diversity is huge. You know what I mean? They're not in areas like where, for example, where I am. So and I tell you, I've seen it where it's failed. In the last company I worked for, they actually hired somebody, shook his hand, said, you got the job, got the information sent in for them to get their security clearances. And then the HR person called and said, from HR headquarters in Chicago, and said, hey, we're actually going to withdraw this because this person isn't diverse enough. And the supervisor lost it. They were like, I looked this person in the eyes, shook their hand, and told them that they have the job. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you didn't have to deal with that, Marie, but it ended up going to the guy that introduced the policy for the company, And he lost it and said, that is not the purpose of this policy, and it's getting misused everywhere.
Well, I have to agree with Jules, only because I think everything comes at a time, but also everything should end at a time. I think that as our society today, that we're so inner with each other, interactive, that and the diversity is already there. I agree. It should go back to educating people who don't have opportunities. And I think that's what happens to us as Americans. We're either all right or we go all left. But there is a middle ground.
Yes.
And it does come down to education, training, whatever, you want to put on it. But make it available for them and affordable to get this education. But I agree with her. I don't care if you're purple, green. I don't care who you are, who you say you are. One thing, can you do this job and give it 110%? And that's the person I'm going to hire.
And I agree with that too, because I said earlier, that's exactly how I would do it too.
And I think anytime that you start implementing this type of thing, you're always going to be discriminating against somebody.
Yeah, because
you've laid down a rule, whatever.
Right, because so that head guy was like, this isn't how I wanted this policy executed, right? Because the manager did what we all agree on. They hired the best person for the job. That's what that supervisor did. They hired the best person for the job. But somebody at a very low level said, nope, this is what the rule says, so we're not going to hire the guy. He's not diverse enough. Sorry, open another interviewing pool. Mm-hmm. The guy that's the head honcho of this big company, it got all the way back to him. And he flew in to site to handle it personally, because this just got rolled out. What would you guys say, like a few years ago? This whole diversity and inclusion thing got rolled out.
Yeah.
And here's the point. The idea behind it, like I said, I see their side of the argument. I want to look at both sides of the coin. And I see your guys' side of the coin too, where you're like, it's not working. It doesn't work. It's like you just said, Marie, there has to be balance. Mm-hmm. And there's too many people that are one-siding it instead of this guy who's like, dude, I want you guys to use this policy, but if you have absolutely nobody in the hiring pool that's diverse and this is the dude that applied that's best for the job, hire the dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, again, I feel
this is not new. We had affirmative action before this.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
Okay, so affirmative action is when there was this big push to hire minorities. So if you have a choice between, say the standard is to hire someone, and when they test, they have to be like 90 or something like that at minimum out of 100 or something like that. But then you had a person of of color who, where they normally didn't get this job and they got an 80 because of their skin color, then you would hire that person even though they didn't meet the thing. Like they got extra grace. They could go a little bit below the standard because of their skin color too. So actually, let me just, that's my understanding of it.
And didn't they find that unconstitutional or something about affirmative action? Well, it goes back to the same thing as unions.
Yeah.
Okay. Unions in their day was effective.
Yes.
Okay. Not today.
Not today.
No.
There's no reason there should be a union today other than you're paying them and they got your money. Okay. In which they're investing and sometimes very poorly. So the money that you're paying them is going out the window.
There are still some good unions out there.
Yeah, but I don't feel they're necessary.
In the situations that I was in, the first situations that I was in, so I was union for a little while, it was bad because the union representation would use and abuse and would twist things for their own personal benefit. And I could not stand it. The second situation I was in, when I tell you that guy would fight for you even when you didn't know you needed to be fought for, like somebody was trying to pull a fast one on you because you didn't see the entire big picture and he heard about it, he would go handle it. And he was awesome. He was amazing. And I thought that was effective for me in the the second portion of my career with that. And there are still some times where people just don't understand the bigger picture and they are being taken advantage of, or you have a representative to go in there and like negotiate something for you where it's like, dude, this isn't cool. Yeah. I mean, for example, there's something written in the contract that if you're a welder for a pipe fitters union, that the company has to supply water, right? So they're working upwards in 100-degree temperatures while welding something while wearing fire retardant clothing, and they have to get up because they're sweating. It's 100 degrees, and it's written in their contract that water's supposed to be provided. Like, that's a safety issue. So instead of just going to the boss and the boss saying, well, you can pound salt, here's your check, you can talk to your union representative, because that happened a couple of years ago. I heard somebody say that a couple of years ago, and their union representative had to go talk to the company and be like, hey, and it was taken care of.
Yeah, and see, I just have a different point of view on that. I would be like, yeah, no problem then. I'll see you. You know, I just don't, I don't feel, when they came into effect, the working conditions were horrible.
Right.
Absolutely horrible. But we're nowhere near that today. We're nowhere near that, you know. That's my personal opinion. I don't think they're worth the money that they're paid for. I'd rather take that money. I'm from that generation.
Yeah.
I want something for my money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've never been a gambler.
True, but
it's like I worked for it and I'm giving it away for nothing.
I mean, one thing I will say with that, with unions, is they still have pensions at least.
Well,
you know,
the money you pay them, you could put away in a savings and have your own pension.
Yeah.
it's not that much. I don't
need
Yeah,
them.
I didn't pay them that much. And my union representatives didn't get paid for being union representatives. They
No,
did it
they
for
don't.
free.
On
Yeah.
the norm.
Yeah, they did it for free. They were workers alongside of me. They just had extra stuff that they took on. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think having a pension 110% is worth being in the union, because my 401k will run out, and I don't think Social Security is going to be a
it's not
thing
gonna
when I
be there.
retire.
Not going to be there for me
And
either.
they've
No,
got,
but
you
you
know,
already know that, so you make
Yeah.
provisions. You make provisions.
yeah, but
You know, but again, see, I look at that as that's your obligation.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the company that I work for.
Or the
It's not-
government.
Yeah, or the government.
The
Yeah.
government cannot
I'm
be in
a-
charge of my future.
Yeah, I don't want them in my house. I don't want them in my future either. It's just like them saying, my Social Security that I get is given to me. No, it's not given to me.
No.
I paid for
You
that.
did.
That's
Right.
my money.
That's
right. And
It's
I'm
my
also
money.
paying into Social Security
You
right
know?
now too, but I don't think me and Jules are going to see it.
But
We're not.
But again, I've made other provisions.
Yes.
Social Security was never meant to be lived on. It
Right.
was meant to
Yes.
be an additive.
That's right.
Right.
And so that's where the difference comes in. It's your obligation to take care of yourself. It's not the government's obligation to take care of us or to dictate to us what we can and we can't do
But
beyond the norm of living conditions.
Right.
Like cannot murder, you cannot steal, you know,
Right.
that type of stuff. But beyond that, I'm from that generation. I don't like Big Brother in my business.
Me
I don't
neither.
like him.
I don't either. But
and
I would
I'm
still totally
tired,
love a pension.
But again, that's a savings.
Yeah.
Pension is a savings account.
True, but the company paid it.
But they had them back when. Pensions are not new,
No, but they're all gone now. Yeah.
But
Unless you're union. If you're in a legit union, like Local 43 out of Syracuse, or like a pipe fitters union out of Syracuse, you'll get a legit pension. But if you're with a regular company, like
But
you
on
don't
the
have them
norm, the
anymore.
majority of people don't get a pension from their company nowadays.
Yeah, but that's
That's
sad.
the norm. Well, I don't think it's sad.
I
No.
do. I do.
Nah.
I think
I would rather have a pension than a match in my 401k. Because that's money that no matter what, it's set in stone. You are getting this much. This is how much is always going to be there. And it doesn't depend on how the market's
Let me
doing,
say
how much
except
money you're
pension.
gonna get.
Enron.
Except if the business goes away, whatever happens, so does your pension.
Yeah.
No, it
Enron.
doesn't.
Enron.
Alcan
Right?
Alcan went away, and my grandmother still has a pension.
And believe me when I say that's one of the few.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
of the few. And the only reason they had that was because of who ran Alcon. But when you get somebody in big business and corporate who's corrupt, you can kiss your pension goodbye.
Well, that's why I did kiss a pension goodbye.
You know?
They were like, I don't want to pay for that anymore. Here's a 401k. I'll match it up to 6%.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, don't think for 1 second that they're doing you any favor, because they're not. They're not. Don't go under that illusion.
Let me just circle back because our listeners that are familiar with affirmative action, I'm just going to read about it, so we're clear, and we don't get as mean comments. Well, mean comments, who cares? Actually,
Yeah.
Go ahead and send your mean comments. I
Yeah,
don't care.
we're good with that.
Affirmative action is a policy in the United States that aims to improve education and employment opportunities for groups that have faced discrimination. The policy was originally designed to the level playing field and for people based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. It has since expanded to include other groups such as women and people with disabilities and covered veterans. Affirmative action can include policies such as grants, scholarships, and hiring quotas. For example, federal contractors and subcontractors are required to take affirmative action to recruit and promote qualified minorities, women, and others. And this can include training programs, outreach efforts, and other positive steps. And these procedures must be incorporated in the company's written personnel policies and updated annually. Now, in June 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the use of race in college admissions, which some say will have a far-reaching implications for diversity on college campuses and in the workforce. So I just wanted to read that for what it's worth. And one other quote from Martin Luther King Jr., he said, quote, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character," end quote.
Exactly.
But and the only other thing that came to mind, I was like screaming at it. I think I've said it a couple times, but because we do have a real life example, is Enron. All those people that it was a major stable corporation, but there was a lot of corruption, and people had a lot of money tied into their 401k and different things like that, their retirement into this company, and people got goose egg when that went down.
That's
so,
horrible. But
All gone.
On the other
that's
side
what
of that,
is that early 2000s or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not that
It was
long
a while
ago.
ago.
yeah. And on the other side of that, there are people I know that are retired over the last couple of years that have pensions, and it's not like they're living high on life. You know what I
No.
mean? They're going on luxury vacations and stuff like that. They're still taking a huge cut in pay, but they still have that money coming in the door for the rest of their life until they pass away.
Hopefully.
So, but I mean, that's what happened to. I've never in my personal life, so I don't know because you have different experiences than me, Marie. But I have my personal life. Everybody that I know that was retired that was on a pension had zero. I've never heard of anybody saying my pension got taken away from me before. And I know it's probably happened. You're saying it happened.
Oh, yes.
But I don't
To my
know.
aunt.
I don't know anybody personally that happened to.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's good to have, but I don't think you can just put all your eggs in it. Is what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying to put all your eggs in it, but I would still
people
like
do.
one. I would still like one.
Well, people still think, Social Security is the end. That's the end of
Oh, heck
everything.
no.
I don't have to work. I'm going to get a check every month. It's great. Yeah, sure it is. Try to live on it. That's all I'm saying. We're not even at the cost of living, okay? That's all I'm saying.
goodness.
But by the same point, what I'm thinking is, I could live to be 100, so I'm okay if I'm not at the cost of living. As long as I have an additive coming in the door, I'm all right with that.
Right.
I'm not going to make a killing on Social Security.
No.
It's not going to happen. But I believe in preparation. I believe that regardless of who you're working for, if you expect them to take care of you, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's not the norm anymore. Years and years ago, even when you spoke about a corporation, most of those were not as big as these conglomerates are today.
Or
They
corrupt, right?
Yeah. There was always a little corruption. in
Right. That's
everything,
anything.
But it was never at the level that we're at today.
Right,
Even the
exactly.
size of the corporation wasn't anywhere near that. So they pretty much stood by their employees for several reasons. It was just as much for their benefit as for the employee. They
Right.
wanted the loyalty of the employee. They
Right.
did not want to have to go out and hire and rehire.
Yeah.
So they did things to keep their workers, which was great.
Yeah.
But
I just feel like they don't do that anymore.
I think some do. Again, it depends on the size
Correct.
of the business.
Correct. Yeah.
You find some of these small businesses, and they have maybe half a dozen employees or something. They're going to treat their employees right.
Yeah.
First of all, they're going to know them personally. And if you know your employees personally, that has a tendency to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's many of that still in the USA. I think any of your small businesses.
Right. It's just the bad situations we hear about mostly. I
Yes,
think.
that's what we always hear. We always hear the negative part, but there's plenty out there. I know we all know somebody that's done their own business and how well they've done or whatever, or haven't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think as we get more advanced in technology, regardless of whether this AI thing comes in or whatever, the end of the day, you're always going to need somebody to run them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a machine.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just a machine. And it may start to think for itself or whatever, or so they say. But if that happens, you won't have to worry about the little guy as much as you do in the corporate.
I know.
If I'm AI and I get to think for myself, I'm going right to the top. I'm certainly not starting at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
That could be a topic in itself, the
AI.
AI situation. Absolutely. I think it's coming.
Yes.
And on that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Three Generations. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe, leave a comment, send us an email.
Yes.
Our email is podcast3generations@gmail.com. I promise we'll read it and address it. We love it. We love feedback. And just tune us in from next time. From Jess, Julia, Marie, thanks for listening. See you next time.